Welcome to the Gentleman's Talk, where the podcast talks about a man's battle with mental health, his personal experiences, and his journey to be a better soul. Hosted by James Dean Littlejohn.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Gentleman's Talk. After what seems another long week, doesn't it? Sorry about that. I keep saying that, but if I'm brutally honest, I lost my mojo. I don't know. Even tonight, I've kind of gone, shall I do this? Shall I not? It's been a questionable time for me. And I always get to this point though with projects, and this is what I'm conscious of: is I get into a project and I do things, and what I tend to find is the interest gets lost when I stop receiving that gratification, and by gratification I mean helping people, because that's where I get my most of my gratification from. And it's been a bit, I don't know. I suppose it was the tail end of the week, and I had a little bit of feedback, I think, from a listener, and the feedback didn't sit right with me. I'll explain that in more detail in a minute, but it's just been a bit of a difficult sort of kind of transition. And then we had Easter weekend, of course. That was a long weekend, and I was conscious I needed to rest and recuperate, and sort of I had loads of other things to do with regards to family, so sort of kind of helped my parents, and I went over Thursday night last week and had a lovely Chinese with my parents, which was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we started at, I think I got around there about 6, and I didn't leave till 1:45 in the morning. Just literally chatting away. It was really, really, really pleasant. It was me, my wife, and mum and dad, and we were just had a Chinese. Pleasantly sort of split the bill, which was always nice, because I'd like to, contribute. I don't like to take. But it was just nice. It was a really nice evening, got to sort of chat and, clear the air with a lot of things. And I find that I'm doing that. The more that I talk to people and the more personal I get with people, including family and friends, the more personal I get. And the more I open up and the more we discover. And it's, it's a constant journey. I've had very difficult ups and downs with my parents over the last 10 years. And family to that end, and even friends, and I'm still discovering things now about my parents, and they're still really sort of kind of discovering things about me as well, which I'm conscious of, sort of mixing and learning and understanding, and until you give time of day for those people, and to try and advance. And I learned a few things about my mum. My mum was kind of worried that as she gets older, she doesn't feel like she's going to have, that support, that someone to look after. She sees that my dad does, and I very, very much care for my father. And that doesn't mean I don't care for my mum, but it's a different relationship, and I've sort of embraced the understanding that that's how she feels, and I don't want anyone to ever feel like that. So, the tail end of the start of last week, I made the conscious effort to say, do you know what, I'm going to come around for a meal, and we're going to chat and just basically become more prominent in their life as much as I can, without impacting on them and without impacting on me. We've both got our own lives, but it's really important to understand and listen to them. And I value the stories, because there's a lot you don't know about your parents. As you grow up, you've got to, anticipate and also understand that, my parents were, sort of relatively young when they had us. But, you don't really sort of take on board much for the first 10 years of your life. So that's 10 years I don't really appreciate. You see photos and you hear stories and such like, but you don't really understand your parents. It's not till you start understanding your parents is when you start getting teenagers. And that brings me on to a little fact that I learned today. Which was really interesting, actually, and probably would explain quite a lot. So I discovered that, factually, boys mature around about, sort of start maturing around about 15, 16, so we're quite immature. But we develop half of our brains by the time we're 15, 16. only half of our brains have been developed in the males. And females, I'm using them too as genders. I have to, sorry, because that's the explains it to me. But in females, it's 14 to 16, and they develop half. Now, the key kicker for me was males don't mature fully and start developing properly until they're 30. So 30 is the ripe age, and I think that statistically men in their prime are at 35 to 36. That's their prime. They've matured at 30. They've boosted on to 36, and that's when you start developing. And that's probably relevant massively to me, actually, because I'm a year behind, I suppose, educationally, because I was born on at the end of August. So I was a sort of kind of summer baby, but right on the pinnacle of the 2 years. So whereas like you can, from the 1st of September, you could, you're in the next year, the year below. I was the 31st. So you can imagine educationally, if somebody in our year had started on the 1st, which there was quite a few, on the 1st of September and around that time to December, they're already 8 months ahead of me in terms of development. So I did struggle massively, and I find that they've got to be a cut-off point, I understand, with educational systems, and they've notified that a little bit in the fact that they do 2 intakes now for summer babies, and I did struggle massively through school. But more importantly, 30 is the development age. Now, the kicker for me was females mature at 22. So they get 8 years of maturing before we even start maturing to our full capacity. So it's just like a crazy stat, isn't it? And it's like you don't sort of realise how immature you are, that and going back to how I was going on, and you're kind of, as you start developing 13, 14, you lose track of, because I was going out then, so I wasn't really socialising with my parents, and I left at 16. So, for me, it was, I didn't really understand anything about my parents, because then I joined the military, and then I sort of got a family, and I left. So there's a hell of a lot, a good 30 years I don't really know about my parents. And you hear bits and you go in, but you don't understand their story, do you? And it's relevant with me, same as, and generationally. So it's really important. And I suppose when we get to an age, like say I'm 40 now, and as a male, where I am now, the last 2 years, I've been so engrossed in learning, and I think that's just because, the maturity is starting to kick in, and I suppose I'm less, less immature in certain circumstances. I'm still a bit of a child, and I still enjoy being a bit of a child. I'm not one of these stiff upper lippers, I'm not really into that sort of bag. But it was really important. So anyway, yeah, so I had a really, really nice night, Thursday night, and it was sort of kind of brought it on and to the following weekend, and yeah, I got into Friday, had a nice Friday, and then Saturday I spent the whole day. Saturday was the whole day in the garden, so I had a really manual labour day. Sunday I went across and helped my mother-in-law and laid a load of laminate flooring for her, which was a very stressful occasion for me, because it was dealing with measurements and angles and cutting around doors with laminate flooring. Not the perfect tools either, so I had most of them. There was a tool that I wanted, but I never got it. But I enjoyed the experience, but at the same time, it was very stressful for me because, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So I needed it to be perfect. It was also for my mother-in-law, who's, helped me a lot. So I felt I needed to do that justice. So there was a lot of pressure on me. And I did have a sort of tail end of stress. And I think that was when I started losing my mojo a little bit, and even though it was a satisfactory job, and in my terms amazing than everyone else's, from what I've heard, unless they're just fluffing me up, probably are just fluffing me up. Nobody likes an angry James, so I've learned a hell of a lot, to be fair, and that's I suppose when I lost my my mojo a little bit, and got to sort of Monday, and Monday was a bit of a slow day for me. My family have gone away for the weekend, for the week to Butlins. I haven't gone because I need to look after my dogs. So I'm alone, and I don't mean it in the, oh God, look at me, I'm alone. It's more so in the sense that I'm used to noise. Although I don't like noise, I don't like big noisy areas, and it is quite chaos. I can already see my dogs are quite subdued. I'm a little bit subdued. I've just kind of lazed on the sofa after work, and yeah, I've just not got that inspiration when you've got people around you in family. And because I work from home as well at the moment, I'm just not getting a lot out of life. And I noticed that the tail end of last week, actually, that I was craving attention from people. And I think that's why, and it sort of brings me around full circle, really, to one of the feedbacks that I'd received from a listener, and actually a friend of mine. And it was a kind of, I see his point of view with regards to it, and it was regarding the last podcast I did, and I said about resentment, positive resentment and negative resentment, and he was quite, it came across as quite, that's a word I'm thinking of, it came quite, a little bit abrupt, I suppose, for me, because I try to look at everything at the moment through not rose-tinted glasses, because that would be very stupid to me. And I've never been like that. I'm not an optimist. I'm not even a pessimist. I'm a realist. So I've always understood when people have come up to me with dreams, and I look at them and go, "You're not going to do that," and they go, "Well, you've got to be an optimistic," and I go, "No, I just know you're not going to, because I know your personality, I know what you're capable of, and I know that is not going to be in your achievable." And I've had some very negative feedback from people with regards to that, and I've had a lot of hatred from friends with regards to that, including actually sending a message to a friend of mine. Actually, I've re-engaged with, but this particular, I suppose it was because it felt personal, I think, and I don't think that was the intention, and I fully understand that I read things differently to most people. I do take things emotionally on board, and I think because I put so much passion into my podcasts and talking about it, I took it as a quite an abrupt sort of kind of, not an attack because that's the wrong word to use, but it felt a little bit like he disagreed with the fact that there's positive and negative positive and negative, the way we sort of approach things, so resentment, that's the word I'm looking for, positive and negative resentment. Now, I suppose I put it in context with regards to the negative aspect of resentment, and I tried to put a kind of positive spin on it and a positive outlook, and it was kind of met with a little bit of resistance, which I get, and hey, I'm here to be challenged, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way, because I used to work with somebody who used to say that a lot. I'm happy to be challenged, and I'm like, well, it's quite an arrogant attitude to have, and I'm not an arrogant person. So I meant it more from, I'm happy to be challenged in the sense that everyone's entitled to their opinion. So I took it on board, but I suppose it was because it was constant. It was, there was about 4 or 5 messages and that kept saying, I don't understand where you're coming from, and there was a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Again, I keep losing a lot of words today. I think it's because I'm thinking consciously about how I respond to this, so I don't think about it too emotionally, because this is a friend of mine. But ultimately, I need to talk about it because it has sat on my mind since the occasion, and it hasn't let slip. And for me, I think the only way I can really deal with it is by processing it, and by processing it is by talking about it. So that's the whole purpose of all these journeys. So yeah, and it came across as a little bit sarcastic, I suppose, is the easiest way to say it, without tough love and all that sort of stuff. And it did. It came across as sarcastic, and I tried to sort of say, well, I'm just trying to be positive, because I think that there is an element of resentment, and without trying to explain myself, because there's no need to explain myself, because I'm not trying to justify the argument. It's my perception of of how to deal with a feeling or an emotion, and that's his perception. So, and I would be stupid to argue with that perception, just like he would be stupid to argue with my perception, because we've got to have different outlooks on life. And I look at it as there is positive resentment. I think that's the way I want to deal with it, because I suppose that's my way of playing down or trying to turn a negative word into a slightly positive word. And I fully appreciate where he was coming from. I think the reason it hurt a little bit, and not hurt, but the reason it sparked an emotional reaction with me, is because it was the personal sarcasm that was brought towards it. Now, I'm all for taking banter. I will sit and be ripped apart all day. But I find it difficult to take sarcastic banter with regards to something I feel passionately about. And especially when it was just my perception of something. And that was his perception. And I think that it just sort of built on and built on. And that kind of led me on to my sort of downward spiral of losing my mojo, really, because I've lost engagement with another one of my friends. He's kind of had 2 weeks off and completely ignored the whole purpose of what we were trying to gain, which was talking daily and being open and honest. And then my other real good friend of mine has done exactly the same. You know, admittedly, he has still continued with, I mean, bless his heart, he literally has been diagnosed with coronavirus. The Rona's got him because he's weak inside, and I'm going to tell him that when I see him. So he still managed to wake up this morning with a headache and a sniffle, and still managed to put out a message to me, which was really, really nice. A little disheartened at the fact of the effort that's been put in from my other friend, who's not really sort of kind of kept up with it and just kind of shut down. I find that it felt selfish to me because we've done so much effort to motivate him that, you know, his relaxing time, we still need motivation. So it's not, for the first time ever, I felt like it wasn't a two-way, it hasn't been a two-way friendship for the first time. And again, it's probably my perception of negativity, just because that's where it's been going, and this is where I lost my mojo. You know, even to the point where, you know, I said I was doing a podcast tonight, and, you know, the response was nice, you know, and I suppose it's really hard when you're not getting feedback from other people and you're only getting feedback from the potential 3 people, maybe 4 on a push. And when you lose that and you think about the grand scheme of things, you know, I've had 600 downloads of my podcast, which I'm absolutely humbled by. But at the same time, this is a constant journey, and it just goes to show when you drop off the sideways and your friends don't engage with you again, that in actual fact, you lose the mojo. And that's the whole purpose of this. We were supposed to keep each other up and going, and that's just slipped to the wayside. And what's concerned me is it started off as a couple of days last week to winding down to literally nothing. And well, you know, and in the mix of that, I've had a lot of negativity, negativity towards other things. So I've just kind of lost my mojo a little bit, to the point where I've just been, you know, I've lost. It's really weird with me. When I lose my mojo, I kind of lose my mojo for everything, because my whole ethos in life is and as you've heard me talk about in so many of my podcasts, is little things like nurturing friends. And, you know, even to the point where we're organising events, future events, there's no emphasis on it. No one's acknowledging even the events that I'm putting in and stuff like that. So I feel a little bit lost, if I'm honest, because I've been so positive and so happy, and all of a sudden I've just seen changes with that positivity, and I thought that was what I was creating, was positivity around me. And it seems that a little bit of selfishness has crept in, you know, and that's a little bit disheartening for me, because I value everybody around me. And maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't think I am, because I'm not in a bad place to be overthinking it. I'm just literally factually looking at the the events and how they've unfolded. But it's a little bit disheartening, because it's kind of like, and when I overanalyze these things, you kind of think to yourself, well, maybe I'm not on the priority list as I thought I was. I don't know. Maybe I've taken a little bit of an emotional feeling out of it. So from the way that I've been interacted with. So it's been a tough one, if I'm honest. And that's only the week. That's only the week and the weekend. So, but here I am. I am talking to you because I want to get back on track. And, you know, like I said, this is a constant journey. And I think I said last week I want to get back on track. And the week before I want to get back on track. Because it is a constant battle. And it only takes the slightest of things to knock you back. And that person or those people might not even realise that they've taken you back. But when you nurture such a small network of close people that you're trying to sort of network with and engage with and give you a purpose in life. And I don't mean purpose as in I need a purpose in life to be friends with them. I mean, it just gives you that drive, doesn't it? When you're having constant interactions with people and you're having fun and you're having banter and all the good stuff that goes with it. And excuse me, I've just had a fruit shake again. I'm trying to be healthy as well, so that's crippled me a little bit. But yeah, when you try to look after everybody that's around you, and you kind of constantly engage, and I reflect on quite a bit today. Just sat there today thinking I need to sort of pull a podcast out my backside really and get going. And I don't know. I just dived in really and thought, where's my mojo gone, you know? It didn't help that last week I know on a ratio of fail to pass, I think I've done 20 different courses in the last year and a half, including high profile stuff, sort of top level, level 6, level 5, diversity inclusion, level 6, health and safety, level 3, teaching. I've done quite a lot, but I failed my first time, one of my exams. It's not a massive big deal, but I failed that last week, and I suppose that with the chain of events of losing contact with my friends and the sort of kind of the dismay I felt from feedback, and all those sort of chain of events led to my mojo being lost, I think. And when I failed that, I took it with a pinch of salt. I say that on the surface, but underneath I was absolutely crushed because I don't like failing. But you have to fail to progress. So, if you constantly go on a journey of passing things, and on that journey of self-discovery, you'll become very selfish because you'll think that you can't fail. So I took that, and that's where I spun around and I put a positive spin on a failure and went, in actual fact, it's an exam resit, easy enough. You know the knowledge, spot on. So sit the exam, do it again. You've had plenty of time to refresh. Sit the exam and redo it, and then, kind of go from there. So I purposely looked at the positivities of that, and that was really important for me to sort of analyse what had happened. And out of the 3 courses the 4 courses in the 4 days, that was the only one I failed, and I failed by two marks. It was a written exam as well, and it was a 60% pass mark, and I got 58. So kind of gutted because I wish somebody had just found those extra marks. It was only 2 extra marks, and they were 4-mark questions, so it was half a mark. It was half of a question really. But the good thing is when I looked at it, the feedback on the back said where I'd failed, and I'd failed under legal, basically. And the legal side of things is always a bit difficult with law, and there wasn't really much emphasis on it. Health and safety I'm fine with, but I've just I've actually just on the positive side of that completed my level 2. My module 2. I've got it in front of me. Hold on 2 seconds. Module 2 in my degree, and it was on personal injury, liability, and absence reduction. It's part of my health and safety degree, and I completed that. So I had my validation interview today, and it was the same guy who did my last validation interview, and we laughed because I spoke to him for like literally 5-10 minutes on the last one, but he instantly came on. He went, "Oh, it's you! I recognise you." And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Your beard's bigger." And then we got into a debate for 5 minutes about beards, and his was quite thin, and I'm not going to lie, it was quite pathetic. But I said to him, I'm fortunate because of X-Forces, I had to shave every single day, and for the first 4 years, because I've got quite thick hair. I had to shave twice a day because I used to have a 12 o'clock shadow, and they never believed me. So all through training, I had to shave twice a day. So now you can imagine, I think most of my follicles, hair follicles, there's 2 to 3 hairs coming out of each one. So you can imagine it's pretty thick. It's pretty glorious. Nowhere near the standards of my brother, but hey, we've all got to have an aspiration, and I certainly look at my brother when his is all groomed and trimmed. It looks spectacular. So I'm aspiring to that side of things. So yeah, so it's been one of a difficult one. I haven't really even got sort of kind of a topic. I just want to talk really, about how I sort of felt and just sort of re-engaged. I re-engaged with another friend of mine as well, actually, which was really important because I felt I was ready to re-engage, and it was an old friend of mine that I'd recently lost contact with through a disagreement with each other. How he treated me, and I re-engaged just because I was conscious that he was struggling. I was conscious that this new venture that he'd gone along isn't working out as well as he'd hoped. But I can relate because I'm very much like that. I have dreams. He unfortunately jumped feet first into his dream, which was spectacular to a degree. We've all got to take the effort to jump. But at the same time, it's jumping with the right advice. And I personally wouldn't have done the journey that he took because I've always had a sensible approach when it comes to employment, and I know how important it is. So I've always looked at knowing that, and this is the advice I actually finished up with him when I texted him. He said he's struggling and he's looking at what to do, and hopefully by the time he's 50 he'll grow up. And I sort of said, well, it's not about growing up. I mean, I don't want to grow up. I said it's about making sure you've got a future, and that's exactly as I put it to him. So I put it down to him that don't look at it about growing up. Don't look at it as you don't know what you want to do. Just look at an avenue. And this is where I always did. So from a very early on, sort of career-wise, I've always had aspirations. I've always been, whenever I was a mechanic, I was like, I want to run my own business, and it didn't work out. So I joined the RAF, and the first thing I said when I walked in was, how do I get promoted to corporal? Because that was the promotion, the big promotion in the RAF. And they said it was an average of 12 years. So, I did it in 6. So it's slightly different to, all forces are slightly different, but the RAF is very much, because you're until you're 55 plus, it's very much sort of dead man's shoes. You wait for that guy to die before you can move up and progress. So it's a bit of a slow process. That's why corporal is set down quite low, but is actually given probably one of the highest perks and highest ranks in the RAF because it's the most common rank. So I did it in 6 years, so it's quite a good aspiration for me. So, and then when I left Serco, when I joined my other job and I left the RAF and went to Serco, I did exactly the same. I want to get to site manager, and I did. I went from Tech 2, sort of kind of low sprayer, to site manager in 5 years. So that to me was a big aspiration. I sat interviews and everything for every single one, all the training that was required to do it properly. I say that because I am quite negative about certain people. Not people, I say the way the company has run it since then, since they promoted me through hard work, was if you're there and it fits, we'll promote you. But I don't think that's fair on the individual, and I don't think it was fair on the people around them. But ultimately, that's why I left. And the same, I've joined, my current employer, and I've done the same. I've got aspirations. But one of the biggest things I said to myself, and this is to go back onto what I was saying about him, was, and this is the advice I gave him, and don't get me wrong, I'm not an employee specialist or an employment specialist. I'm not even in recruitment. But my ethos on life has always been try and find a job that is relatively secure, because jobs nowadays aren't really that secure. But aim towards the base level. Get yourself educated. Get yourself involved in learning that process. And start from the bottom and work your way up, but make sure that you've got that career path to work your way up. Another thing that was really important to me was to ensure I had a pension. So I've got 3 pensions now. This is my 3rd pension. So I've paid into 2 pensions for 12 years and 10 years, and then this one, whatever this one grows for. And I've always done that because I've maintained that if I do this job now for the next 10 years, I could almost retire comfortably at 65. If I do it for another 20 years, I can comfortably retire at 60. So that's always been my aspiration, is to look at retiring at 60. That was what I always wanted to do, was retire at 60, not 67 or whatever the fucking government just dictates at the time. I'm not interested in that shit. I'm going to work towards getting to 60 because I enjoy working. Things might change along the line. There might be a medical issue. There might be another opportunity that arises where I go, okay, I'll take it. Do you know what I mean? That's what I've done with this, and I've certainly changed my outlook on life a little bit, but at the same time still staying in these secure organisations. And I gave that advice to him. I said to him, if you want a secure future, mate, and it's no point in trying to look at, getting fast cash or getting on a gimmick, and jumping on a gimmick and thinking it'll work, because it just won't. The market's flooded with gimmicks. The market's flooded with social media gimmicks and people trying to make fame through that. I mean, the amount of stupid fucking idiots that I see on the internet now that make so much money from just being a fucking idiot. It puts shame on people that work fucking hard. And that's, whenever my kids have said to me, I'm going to fucking go and do this, or go on TikTok, and I'm just like, you're fucking not under my roof, mate. You'll get an education, you'll get yourself qualified, and you'll fucking build it. If you want to do something along the line, and I admire some of the people out there that have incorporated the social media aspect in with their employment, so their employment is topped up by actually people watching videos, and do you know what? I'm not plugging him, but I watched the Hoof GP, believe it or not, and it's a guy that he goes around farms and he clears up, cows' sort of hooves and trims them and shows you abscesses and dermatitis and how to cure it. And it's really interesting for me because it's not a life I've ever been in. I've been on a couple of farms, but it's really interesting. And he's got massive followers from just doing his job. And what that's done in turns, he's still doing his job, but the extra income has been brought in because of this social media aspect. And he's obviously a likeable guy. And it's topped him up so he can go out and have extra luxuries in life. So that's the right way to do it. If you're going to use social media, don't do what you see nowadays. And people still try and do this jackass style thing where I watched a fucking guy yesterday, and I digress a little bit here, but I have to. It's part of the journey. He jumped off of fucking. He says this thing. He pulls his fucking jumper off, and he says some fucking slur, some stupid line, and then jumps into fucking barbed wire, and then wonders why it fucking hurts. And I think to myself, okay, mate, one time was funny, but this guy's got fucking 300-400 videos of this shit. And I just think to myself, and he's making a fortune. He's got thousands of views on all of his videos. And I just think our morbid, as human beings, our morbid interest in people fucking hurting themselves is actually making them money. And it's kind of put a real spin on the world, actually, to the point where people are trying to get famous from just doing stupid shit. But gone are the days where you work hard. You know what I mean? Well, there isn't, because there is a lot of people that still do. In actual fact, when you look at the percentage value of people that make it on social media, it's very slim, and I think the beauty with social media now is, and this is where I've certainly I put it in its place. I mean, I'm off social media, so I don't see in that shit directly now. I just see the odd little video pop up, and it intrigues me. But I don't go hunting on all the other media platforms. There's probably a shitload since mine, the ones I was using. I mean, I still remember MySpace. So, that's how fucking old I am. I still remember the first day logging into Facebook thinking, what is this? It's interesting to watch it evolve, but I'm not interested in that now. I've jumped off the wagon and I've kind of gone, let it fucking go off, chew, 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 sort of thing, for me. But I do see the relevance to it because, you know, if I'd have, I think if I'd have had social media and taken advantage of it to the level it is now, and I'd have done social media for all of my painting journey, so in the last 21 years, and all the stuff I've painted, made, designed, everything, I think I probably would have got a decent following off of that. So I probably would have carried on being a painter. It's only because I'd had enough of being a painter, so to speak, and there was nothing to drive me anymore, because it was the same shit, and it was the same fucking idiots coming along and asking for me to paint a jumbo jet for a fucking slab of cans, you know. So I was tired of that, you know, people's not really appreciating your skill. So it just ground to a halt, and it got to a point where I was like, well, I enjoy health and safety for all its fucking sins. I do enjoy it because every day's different, and you know, I enjoy helping people, and I enjoy looking after people. I'm a protector, so it was a fitting profile. And also, nobody comes to me for advice on health and safety, do they? Because we all try to avoid the health and safety guy, unless you terribly need him. And then if you do need him, then normally you can charge them a nice bit of money to go, you need my experience now. So it's kind of the tide's turned a little bit. So as comfortable as it sounds, that's the way I've sort of kind of nurtured it, and I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. I enjoy learning. In fact, you know, today, for all its sins, that must be the word of the day, for all its sins. Today I sat on a LGBTQ plus supporting colleagues in the workplace. To do with, so I do diversity and inclusion on my, that's a big mouthful. I do diversity and inclusion on my sideline. It's a passion of mine, mental health, diversity and inclusion. I really like engaging with people on a nice, even playing field. I sat on this conference call for the whole day because I thought it's CPD for me, continuous professional development in my area. It's really good, and it's good to engage and learn about the way that the world is changing and how people are changing themselves. The downside I found to the whole day, and bearing in mind, it started at 9, finished at 4, so it was a long old day. It felt very, I have to say, as a heterosexual, because I am heterosexual male, who's, you know, an 80s born person, it was very difficult to understand, if I'm a little bit honest. But most of the people that were on the call, you know, for the trans, there was a bloke that had transitioned across to being a female, and there was another one that had transitioned, another bloke that had transitioned across to being a female, and there was a couple of gays. One interesting I did find out about it though is I thought queer was a negative slur towards being homosexual. It transpires it's not. For me, I learned that today. It's not. They actually still refer it as queer, and there was a couple of heterosexual speakers on there that were using the analogy of queer. So that was a learn, and I always thought it was a bit of a slur, but hey, we all live and learn, don't we? It was certainly a slur in the 90s, but it's not. Obviously now they've embraced it and used it in the right context. But one of the things I found today from that learning experience for me was, still felt very self-entitled. It was almost like, because I wasn't, it was almost like they were having a go at the heterosexual male and female sort of population, saying that one of the terminology they used was this: a civil servant came on and basically said that he gets sick to death of people wanting to know about, say, for instance, the Vietnam War was what he used as an analogy today. But nobody wants to know about the last 50 years of fighting, homosexuals fighting for the rights, you know, and gay pride and all that sort of stuff. And I kind of went, well, I don't know why I need to know about that. I don't know why I need to know about that, because if I had an interest in that, I'm interested in war because I'd be interested in the Vietnam War because of all the carnage it created. Why was it? Why did it start? Etc. Etc. I mean, I don't know a lot about it, but you know, if I was interested in that, it felt almost as if we were being forced to learn it and accept it. Yet acceptance is already there. we are learning about it, and we are learning all the time, because in my personal opinion, I think the community as a whole is learning. The more they get given their freedom, and the more that their freedom is accepted, the more that they are learning to where they can push their boundaries before it becomes a problem. But I got the impression today that it was almost as if we should learn right now exactly what's happened, even though it's not really an interest of mine. There's a lot in this world I don't know about, but I got a lot from it. I learned a lot from it, and I'm not taking it away from anybody that's listening to this, because I did actually learn a lot, and I've got a lot to take into the workplace. And to be honest, what I did learn, and the reason I wanted to go onto it as a manager, was because if I ever come across an encounter, I would hate that person to feel like I didn't know something for a base level. I don't need to know about the last 50 years. I don't need to know about where they've come from. I don't need to know about the struggle. Personally, I don't, because I treat everybody as equal. The only thing that I needed to understand, I wanted to understand, was, and this is where my thirst for learning comes in, was how to ensure that people are treated the right way. Because one of the things I've learned massively over my mental health journey is people never accepted my mental health. They didn't know my mental health. They didn't understand my mental health. And that's where I think I had a little bit of resentment today. And I sort of put a little bit of a guard up, because I was like, you're throwing this down my throat, so to speak, and I'm sat here in my time paying for a conference to listen to about this, to evolve myself enough to be a better manager, to better support my my colleagues, and even my friends, because there's friends that are experiencing this in their own in their own households, and I want to understand it. So that's why I've really taken myself out of my own comfort zone to understand that, because I want to better pursue myself. But I was kind of sat there thinking, well, I didn't chuck it down. I haven't chucked it down anyone's throat that no one knew about mental health. I fell out with my mum and dad and brother, sister, wife, everybody. I've fallen out with everybody from it. So the fallout for me is absolute chaos. Like for mental health is chaos. I'm not comparing mental health to LGBTQ plus community. I'm not understanding that. But one of the guys sat there and he went, a lot of the times he said it in quite an aggressive manner. He said, oh, there's people out there that, they'll sit there and in a military environment where acronyms are ridiculous. They are ridiculous in the military. He said, well, they can sit there and they can learn acronyms, and they know acronyms that for long words, 7-letter acronyms, but they can't sit there and understand the LGBTQ plus acronym. And I'm like, maybe that's because they don't understand it. Maybe it's because it's not part of their everyday life. So I might hear that acronym once a month at best, whereas I could hear an acronym from work every single day. So that acronym then becomes part of my daily life. But it was almost like there was a negativity towards that. And I sat around and I felt like saying to him, well, there's a lot of people that don't understand PTSD or acronyms to do with ADHD. They don't understand loads of different acronyms that are used for mental health. But we're not sitting there and going, right, you need to know about this mental health and where it's evolved from. We're just going, let's learn about it, let's educate ourselves. So I felt a little bit like it was, the speakers were very, very confident. They were very precise in their delivery, and they educated me, which is what they are there to do. But there was still that percentage, and even a person came on and turned around and said, I've suffered this, I suffer this on social media, and everybody calls me a man, and I should stay a man. And I was like, well, yeah, at the end of the day, you're going to get those trolls in whatever you do. You shouldn't categorise it as they're attacking you, because Christ almighty, I can put on stuff on there about F1 and I'll get a troll that will absolutely cripple me and crucify me because of supporting, say, Lewis Hamilton. It comes... Social media comes with an absolute plethora of minefields and trolls and idiots. You have to accept that. You're not being targeted because of your community group. But anyway, I digressed massively there, but I learned a lot from it. And that was my kind of thirst for learning, really. And that's really perked me up a little bit today, actually. And a lot of people said to me, wow, that was what made you go and do that? And I was like, I wanted to understand, because I want to be a better person. I want to be a better manager. I'm on a path to hopefully being successful. And for me, that is understanding the world we live in today, because it is a difficult world we live in. But I've got a lot to learn about everything. I've got a lot to learn about my own journey. Here I am now, and I've lost my mojo. And I need to get that mojo back. And that's what I'm going to try and do. So, massively important to me. And this is the step. Excuse me, that fruit is bubblicious. Oh no, it's 45 minutes. So, I'm getting a bit further. If you listen to my other podcast, you probably understand about 40 minutes I get to this. A bit gassy. So yeah, this is. I'm sorry if this is. I hope this doesn't seem negative or low, because it's not my intention to be like that. I'm just trying to analyse my feelings and the way that I've dealt with scenarios. And speak to you openly as a listener to understand. Can you relate to it? Yes, I do the same. It's really important to understand those things and understand the journey. Personally, because I think I'm such a social person, and I'm kind of becoming that social butterfly again. And I've had a couple of hiccups. We spoke about them. I was supposed to go out the other week, and I didn't. And I've indirectly, I think, lost a friend from that, actually. But at the same time, if that's the way that it's gone, that's the way that it's gone. I can't help that. I couldn't help that anxiety, but I'm trying to develop myself all the time. And like with any journey, it's a rocky road, isn't it? It's a rocky path. So just have to be mindful of how I deal with emotions. And I haven't reacted in a negative way. I tried not to react in any negative circumstances or, give negative feedback. This is just me being open and honest about how these situations have led to me, trying to pick myself back up again. And I think when I'm so reliant upon my friends, because I am reliant upon my friends, because, I think it's very easy to forget where I've come from. And it was only 3 months ago, and I've spoke a lot and people have heard a lot from me, but it was only 4 months ago that I was in a very, 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 very different place to where I am now. And I have to be mindful, and that's what keeps me afloat. But at the same time, I've only come through this last 4 months because of the people that were around me. When I start losing their engagement, I find it very negative for me, because that's not what I wanted to nurture. So you have to sit there, reset, reevaluate. And if that has to be the way I have to deal with it and go, I thought this was going to be different. I don't know whether it is. That's what I have to do. I have to protect myself, because I don't want to regress to where I was, 4 months ago, where I had nobody, I had nothing, but I had everything, but I had nothing in my mind. I don't want to get to that point, and that's why I'm sat here with no inspiration, no prompting, there's nothing really to give me that push that I needed. And I'm trying to push myself so that I can not rely on them again, not rely on them and use them as a, as a positive aspect to my life. But I need to pick myself up. And I think I got into a safe zone with regards to, how my outlook was. And I need to just reset and do this again for myself, and not wait for the feedback to come in, or and et cetera, et cetera. Just keep going, keep plugging on. To put a little spin on that before I finish up, I also do that because I find their company invaluable to me, and I like learning from them, and I enjoy the learning process. And I go back to maturing at 30, and 35 being the peak of a male's life. And here I am now with this thirst to learn, and the thirst to be a manager, to be the top of my game. I've had a couple of setbacks, like say the failure last week, but I needed to fail that because I felt I was getting too confident and cocky with it. And I think if I'd have passed all 3 of those exams, I would have been really cocky and gone, Jesus Christ, sorry, for those exams. I keep missing that 900 because it was a multi-choice vote for Joe, the first one. But I sit there and go, actually, when you break it right the way down, I've only failed 1 of 4. And it's not a massive fail, it's a couple of marks. So I can resit the exam, do the risk assessment and carry on. And the plus side is, as well, that the course that I did fail was an irrelevance, massive irrelevance. Not a massive, it was a little irrelevance to my job, as in I did it as a bolster on, give me a little bit more kudos and a little bit more of a certificate for the end in my CPD journey. So it's not advantageous to have passed it for my qualification, because I did the 2 that were relevant for my qualification and 2 that were relevant to my job role. So for me, I hit the nail on the head. This was an extra little bit that just they chucked in on the 4 courses, and they went, well, you might as well do it. And I went in and it got approved, and I sat it, and it was a learning process for me. I got a lot out of it, but it's not essential. It's not essential for my job role, but what it is essential for is me. It's essential for me to pass that exam. It's essential for me to hold that qualification, just to prove that I can do it. And that's a personal goal, though. I hope this hasn't been too negative. I'm going to do my motivational minute tomorrow, because today theoretically was my Monday, and I'm conscious I had this big conference call on all day, and then also as well I had my validation interview at 3:45, which I passed with flying colours. I went back and spoke to the guy about that. I didn't finish about that, actually. I digressed massively that I completely forgot, but yeah, I passed my validation interview, so I've just got that, and I've got one more assessment to do, and I've finished my which I'm going to hopefully get started in the next couple of days. By the end of June I want to be completely finished my degree, which is 18 months early. So that'll be really proud, pretty proud moment when you consider I started it in September last year, and I'm going to be finished by hopefully June, because that's the crux of it. So it's a 3-year degree, and I've done it in that space of time, and it's a proper external validation degree as well. It's not, this is all externally validated by 3 different people. So really, really proud that I've managed to achieve that actually in less than a year, and in a year get to where I've got. So I've got a lot of positives to perk me up, and I know that it'll get better, and I already feel a little bit better inside just by talking out these problems and what's been festering in my mind. Like I said, I don't listen to these podcasts back. And I've joined a couple of mental health forums for men and stuff like that, so I'm kind of learning from them and finding the battles that they face, and yeah, it's getting there. I'm certainly getting there. But thank you for listening. I really, really appreciate this, and I hope this hasn't been too negative for you. And there was no negativity intended on it, but it was just to balance out my journey, really, and hopefully give me that spark, that spirit to, do another podcast tomorrow, for instance. I know I'm going to be doing one definitely this week, because I've got some great shit planned this week. I've got the whole day off Friday to spend off with my family once they've been away for 5 days, and I'm going to miss them, so they're all going to come back. And Thursday afternoon, I've got my bike out, so I've got my bike is well and truly been put back together. So I'm going to ride my motorbike up to my brother on Thursday, and go and spend the afternoon with him in the allotment, which is going to bring me loads to talk about. I know it will, because I've got a whole afternoon with my brother. So we'll be reminiscing, we'll be chewing the fat. I haven't really spent an afternoon with just me and my brother for years. So it'll be nice to just go up to the allotment and see the fruits of his labour, and I've asked him to politely knock me up a rhubarb crumble, because he's a really good cook, and I know he's a good cook, and I've never experienced his food. And a little idea was chucked about the other day, actually, about having a chili cook-off and beer event. So there's some stuff coming up in the pipeline, I think, that will be really, really, really smashing. It'd be nice to find a point, bring some beers, all make our own individual chili, and you're all thinking, well, chili's chili. No, it's not. I make chili fucking spicy, and I put it in the slow cooker for fucking hours, and it comes out beautiful. Kieran will probably make his a different way, and my brother will make his a different way. And, with beers and chili, it'd be great. The next day we'll be farting like troopers. So, I'll have loads to talk about. But today was a real momentous moment for me to get me back out, get me back talking again. I do lose my mojo a little bit. I don't mean to, but it's mental health. When you don't feel the feedback from people and you're not engaging with people, it can become a very lonely place. And I don't like being in a lonely place. At the moment, I'm in that place, and I just happen to be in that place when I've got a week on my own. So I'm consciously trying to spark myself up and make sure that I keep on my path, keep on my journey, and keep talking. So thank you for listening. I really, really do appreciate your time, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. If you've got any topics you want me to talk about, jump on my Facebook, please, and just send me a message. Just ask me, let me know what sort of topics you want me to talk about. Excuse me, wow. And hopefully I can help. So that'd be really, really nice sort of positive feedback on what, if there's anything specific you're struggling with, anything specific you have struggled with, and you don't feel like you've moved past it. So something you want to talk about, something you want me to talk about, and try and learn and educate myself and help you. Then I'm here for that, because I'm here for learning all the time and developing myself. And that's where I sort of bring myself into mental health, into workplace, diversity and inclusion, the LGBTQ plus community event. And I've got another symposium next week where I'm going to be talking about, or they're going to be talking about mental health. And one of my aspirations is to be able to talk openly to people about mental health, and become sort of kind of somebody that helps people face to face. That'd be really important. So there's a couple of little things I've got in my mind that I'd like to do. I was meant to do a whole live thing this week, but again, difficult, because absolutely nobody got back to me. Even the people, my friends, they didn't even bother sort of acknowledging it. And I think that, again, that was another disheartening blow for me, because especially one of my friends who's completely disengaged with me. He's one or two messages. He was the one that was up for it. So a little disheartened, if I'm honest, because I was hoping to get a little chat going. But hey ho, we're all dealing with different things, aren't we? So, but thanks for listening, and I really do look forward to talking to you tomorrow. I hope you have a pleasant evening. Take care.